Hi. Good evening, and welcome to another segment of the Ready Talk Show. I am so excited that you have joined us this evening, and I am looking forward to our conversation as we discuss the courage to begin again. So, as we get started, let's take a few minutes and be introduced to our speaker, none other than Miss Tia Acker Moore.
Meet Tia Acker Moore, a resilient businesswoman, author, and media personality who relentlessly balances various aspects of entrepreneurship, motherhood, and godly living. A native of Savannah, Georgia, Tia Acker Moore is a graduate of Georgia Southern University with a dual bachelor's degree in health science and kinesiology. She is also a graduate of the University of Phoenix with a master's degree in business administration. Foregoing a lifelong dream to become a physical therapist, Tia decided to pursue a career in community health and enrolled in an internship in the public health sector at a local hospital. It was here she would discover the essence of helping others and began engaging in a network of community service organizations whose goals were to meet and service the needs of individuals in the community. She had little experience in the business sector, but determined to make a difference, Tia decided to start a business of her own. One that would not only establish her in the business arena, but one that would also enable her to make the difference she desired in her own community. She is the owner of the Savannah-based business Ebony and Ivory Professional Services Incorporated. In addition, Tia is the host of the populated podcast Get Noticed, which is currently heard on 20 stations to include Tidal, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. If that doesn't express the sentiments of resilience, she's also the CEO and editor of Resilient Magazine, a magazine designed to impact, empower, and outline the resilience of African American women. Tia is currently a doctoral candidate in business administration at Walden University. With a continued desire to help others, Tia spends her spare time empowering women through her platform, I Am Resilient. Aside from her professional realm, Tia gives time to being a wife, mother, and nurturing her spiritual realm as well. Let's welcome Tia Acker Moore.
Hi, welcome back. Welcome back. I am so excited to have you, Ms. Moore. So much you have accomplished. I am absolutely proud of you and am a fan and follower of yours. So I'm excited to have this conversation tonight. I know we've talked briefly in the past about, you having the courage to begin again because of life's challenges and changes and things that have happened. And so since COVID, we all have experienced some type of life transition or life change that has caused us to either start over or need to start over, something about beginning again. And so we've talked enough about everything that we've lost. I want to add into that conversation, not to minimize our loss, but I want to add into that conversation the need to focus on beginning again. So let's begin with, do you mind beginning with telling us a little bit about your story that got you to that point where you needed to start over?
Well, actually, I am pre-COVID as far as starting over. I started with 2013 having to, essentially pick up my life again. I had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. I also I'd lost my dad, I'd gotten a divorce, and I lost my job all at the same time. So I had to figure out life and figure it out fast. I didn't have the choice of, just sitting there and saying, why me? I had to figure it out. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow. You had to figure it out. So your children were your why?
Yes. I never wanted to be a mom. My friends can tell you I love being an auntie. And so when I had children, that was really my growing up moment. I did not know that, 5 years into having a child or having children, that I would be divorced. My parents have always been together throughout my life up until my dad passed away. And so I didn't realize that being a single mother was as hard as it was, or being a single woman at that matter was as hard as it was. And so my children became my focal point of what I'm going to do next. And so everything that I did, I had them at the center. I made a lot of decisions about traveling, a lot of decisions on jobs, cities that I wanted to live in. I just wanted to make the best decision for my children. And with that, you know, I went into the land of entrepreneurship because I never wanted to have anyone dangle my livelihood over my head. I didn't want to be hired and then fired and then hired and then laid off. So I just decided if I work for myself, it is at least safer that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I understand that coming from a single parent position, because I was a single parent myself for a while. And so remembering getting to that point where I was told I had to be at a job rather than be home with my children who was sick. And so I was starting over myself after the divorce. So, you know, navigating that can be difficult, but those children, they will become your why if you really want to see them survive and you survive with them. Tell us about the moment and the point, the place that got you to the place where you said, I got to do something different. I can't continue to go like this.
Well, I started to see my parents in my rear view. And so what I mean by that is my father dropped out of high school in 11th grade. Why the 11th grade? I don't know. My mom dropped out of college to take care of my grandmother, and then she later joined the military. And so they had worked so hard to put me through college. And I felt like as a college graduate, here I am on the brink of helping them, you know, live better, do better. Between myself and my siblings, we just wanted to show them that all was not lost. And so then I hit this fork in the road where I felt like I was disappointing them. Like, you know, you guys showed me the Claire and Cliff Huxtable of love and relationship, and here I am saying I quit, or you know, not having a job to support the education that I had. And so at that moment, I was determined to break whatever curse was starting with me, because I felt like there was a generational curse in my family of starting and stopping. No one had ever completed anything. I mean, even down to my mom being in the military, she did 18 years instead of 20. And so, you know, it just was so many barriers that I was just determined that I can't do this. And having a daughter really changed it for me. As you know, as long as I had my son, and they're 2 years apart, as long as I had my son, I felt like I can't let my son down, because there's supposed to be a man in his life to teach him how to be a man. So wherever I fall in error, I will still be able to pat myself on the back for raising a young king. But when my daughter came, I felt different. I felt like, you know what, the generational curse of starting and stopping, it starts with me, because I don't want her to go through life feeling as though she's never going to accomplish something, because there's always going to be a stop in the road. So for me, that was the turning point when I started seeing my life unfold like my parents. And I love my parents, but there were just certain things about them that I did not want to take over into my livelihood.
And the thing I got from what you just said was that it's okay to see something that happened in your family and say that I don't want that to be the person who decides that I'm going to be the change agent. And you mentioned a very important dynamic, generational curses. And sometimes I don't think we really take time to identify those curses as they go down through our family lines. You know, it happened to my grandmother, it happened to my mom, it happened to my aunts, and now I'm standing in line and it's about to happen to me. And getting to that place where you're deciding, no, I can't let this happen to me. And your daughter happened to be that person. Sounds like to me, when you saw your daughter, it was like, this is another generation of not completing anything, that I can't let this happen, which is absolutely awesome. I want to segue into talking about all of the, or some of the emotions that come behind what we would consider setbacks or failures, or things that cause us to have to start over in life. And one of the big words that I can think of that happens when we're in that place is embarrassment. Tell me about feeling embarrassment, especially, you know, you're born and raised in Savannah, I think. And so, you know, having this experience happen to me in the place where everybody knows me. You know, I went to school here. I have family here. I have friends here. Tell me about being in that place of being embarrassed with everything that was going on.
Well, so I wasn't really the popular person. And so I just learned how to deal with things. So it wasn't more so that I was embarrassed around people because,
Mhm.
I'm pretty much the same way I am now. I
Mhm.
go through things that people, unless you're in my circle, you really don't know about. The best part about it is social media was not as high functioning and high stream
Right.
then while I was going through stuff, because I imagine it would be different. The embarrassment for me was internal and it was with my family.
Mm.
I am the only girl of all boys, and
Mhm.
all of my brothers have been with the same person that for all their lives. I have a
Mhm.
brother who's been married 34 years, and I have a brother
Mhm.
who's been married 30 years, and then I have a brother who's been married 11 years. So here I am, like, wow, I got to 10, and then it was just what happened.
Mhm.
For me, the embarrassment piece was I fought so hard to prove that I was more than just my daddy's pretty girl with big eyes or whatever. I tried so hard to prove that point. Growing up, my youngest sibling was the brains. And so
Mhm.
every time someone had an intelligent question, they asked him. They had a funny
Mm.
ha-ha joke, they asked me. Or
Uh-huh.
sports, anything sports related, that was me. But I wanted to be more than just the basketball player, or the soccer player, track person, whatever. I wanted to be taken seriously on the academic level. So I pushed myself to get the master's degree. I pushed myself to get 2 bachelor's degree and then work on a doctoral degree, all because I was trying to prove I'm this smart person, I can do it. And then when I quit, when I dropped out of the doctoral program, that was the big question. When are you going to finish? I mean, even my husband just asked me 2 days ago, when are you going to finish? So the embarrassment piece from that was more internal. I didn't have to face people because I'm a Taurus in real life. And so
Uh-huh.
people don't bother me. That's the best freedom and best deliverance I've
Mm.
ever had, is just getting to the point where I don't care what people think, because people are only going to form an opinion or judge you based off what they see and what they know. And I never confirm or deny anything. Whatever rumor you heard about me, that
Wow.
is true. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say that it isn't. I have heard some far-fetched things about me, but I feel like I don't need to put energy behind that.
Wow.
I feel like, a lie does have speed, but the truth has endurance. And so over time, people kind of figure out what's what. So it really was an embarrassment. When it comes down to my divorce, I did feel as though I had let the church down. I had let God down, because
Mhm.
my ex-husband was heavy into the ministry. He was like a co-pastor to another pastor. And here you are, you're telling people what's right and what they should do in godly living. And then the
Mhm.
next thing you know, you're divorced. So it almost like, question your relationship with God. And I never wanted to be on the side where someone could not call me for prayer because they felt
Right.
like I had just did this god awful thing. So that was
Right.
the only period where I felt like, I'm not
Mhm.
really embarrassed, but I'm more so I got to redeem myself, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Makes a lot of sense. And you brought two, you said three great things. One was a lie has speed, but truth has endurance. I like that. But
Yes.
2 points that you talked about that I want to kind of expound on was one, that internal dialogue. Not necessarily being embarrassed or caring what other people say, but what I'm saying to myself on
Right.
the inside. And sometimes that's our biggest hindrance to making the changes and making the steps that we need
Right.
to start over, to begin. How did you deal with that internal dialogue? How did you get to the point where, first of all, I think you have to change that dialogue
Mhm.
in order to do it? Tell us about changing that dialogue and working through the negative internal dialogue that might have been happening.
Well, for me, I'm the type of person, I'm going to address the elephant in the room before you do. And so
Mm-hmm.
I like to tell my own truth and tell my own stories before you hear it on mainstream or social media or whatever like that. I
Mm-hmm.
own up to the things that I'm not good at. I never give relationship advice because I am on my second marriage. I've had multiple relationships. And so I'm not an expert in that. What I am an expert in is Tia. And so
Mm-hmm.
I will own everything that comes with Tia. And I learned from the previous instances. I'm
Mm-hmm.
successful in my marriage right now because it's not my first one. And I learned
Mm-hmm.
a lot about myself that I knew I could leave some things and I could take some things. I learned a lot about people. And so I use that to my own advantage. I don't let anything hold me hostage. I hear a lot of things, God, she's great in business and great in all of this, but she's just so unsuccessful in relationships, or she's so unsuccessful in, taking off and doing different things. And I use that as fuel. So, it's almost like if you give me too much positivity, I don't have anything to work with. If you give a person an A on every assignment, as they matriculate to the next level, they don't know what to strive for. But if you keep failing me, after a while, I'm going to understand, especially if you're one of those teachers who write why you're giving me an F, or you write in little boxes, I'm going to learn from that. And so what I did was I took every failure and I turned it into a success. And it's a success by my measurement, not a success by anyone else's.
Absolutely. That was good. Measuring by my own definition of success and not by somebody else's. Great. The second point that you brought out was the fact of being a Christian.
Yes.
Being a woman who loves the Lord, being a woman who wants to, serve God in every area of her life, but yet I'm in this phase of life that's causing me to have to walk down a road that, we hear all the time, God hates divorce. All of those things that seems to go against what would be for a Christian woman. How did you deal with that part? Because there are a lot of people who, because they love the Lord, because they are Christians, they somehow feel like if I failed God, and now I'm not even worthy to be called a Christian. I'm not even, I don't read the Bible anymore. And I hear people say these things. I don't go to church anymore because I messed up when I got my divorce. So when this thing happened to me, I just stopped. What would you say to a person about their spiritual walk and about being a Christian when they have life setbacks?
Well, the first thing they need to do is read and get an understanding for themselves. The biggest thing that we have as Christians, we believe everything that is told to us, and we don't go back to get a full understanding. When I was going through what I was going through, I did hear a lot about that, but it didn't keep me away from church, because I'm the type of person, I'm going to read what's in red before I read what's in black. And so I would always say, if Jesus didn't say it, I'm not going with that. There were writers of the Bible, there were messengers, there were prophets, there were, leaders. However, what's in red is what's true. And so I've been told all the time, God does not honor divorce. He does not love divorce. But I also read in red where Jesus is going to ask, who hindered me? And so if I am staying in a relationship that's going to affect my relationship with God, when we die, whether you die in a car accident, a plane accident, and it's 200 people or 3 people, you're still going in the ground by yourself, and you're still going to have to give an account for yourself. So I don't let tradition, doctrine, any of those things affect my decision. I tell people all the time when they meet me, I am the Peter of Christianity. And so, although I feel like I'm here to be used by God and I'm on assignment for him, I am not going to allow anyone to put me in a box where I have to make a decision that's comfortable for them. I'm going to make a decision that's comfortable for Tia. If Jesus can save a thief on a cross the minute before he dies, he can save me. And so any decision that I make that I feel I have wronged, or I have brought some type of shame to God, I'm asking for forgiveness to him. But a lot of times before we can seek forgiveness to God, we're trying to seek the forgiveness of people. People are making us feel as though what we're doing is so this or so that. But if you really read your Bible, you would understand that once you totally sell out yourself to God and sell out yourself to God's work and his plan, it's going to be lonely. There is going to be ice. Anytime you have so many people around you who are pushing you to do something, you have to stop and ask yourself, am I doing what God wants me to do, or am I doing what people want me to do? And so I learned that a long time ago. If it's not in red, I heard you, I appreciate you, and I do believe that God sends messages through various people. But I'm the type of person, did Jesus say that? Or show me where, because to be honest, none of us are worthy of quoting what God said, because had he not sent Jesus, we would be gone. But he sent Jesus so that Jesus could vouch for us and give an account for us. And even in doing so, we have to study and understand what we're supposed to be doing and what our assignment is. And if our assignment is not tied to an individual, then it's not tied to an individual. And the fact of the matter is that we're constantly hearing people say, God doesn't honor divorce, or God is not, he's going to frown on the decision you made. But who's to say that I consulted God when I made the decision?
Right.
So,
Right. Absolutely. Some good stuff. And I think this is stuff that people need to hear. And what an awesome place to take a break. And let's get into a commercial about women. We're going to celebrate women's history. So nice. We'll be right back with you. Stay tuned. Welcome back with our guest, Ms. Tia Acker Moore, as we are having a conversation about the courage to begin again. And so, Tia, one of the things there's so many questions I want to ask you, to encourage people, to start over, or take life by the horns and say, let me make the changes I need to make. One of the dynamics that I want to talk about before we have to leave is, how did you help your children navigate through that season of life? Because I think as adults, we go through seasons of life and we think, I have to do this, I have to make it happen. But we forget to tap into what are my children experiencing? What are they feeling? What's going on with them? Tell us about how you help your children navigate through that season.
Well, the important thing was, it was very difficult, because I put myself before I put my children initially. Going through a divorce, it was I this, I that, me. But after a while, I realized that I was not necessarily a single parent, but I was a single woman. And I was tying the two together because, I felt hurt. I felt upset. Mm-hmm. I had my reasons. However, my kids adored their father, and I did not want to ruin a relationship and have them come back to me years later and full of regret. I was very honest with them. I did tell them that, unfortunately, when we first divorced, it was just us, and I was struggling. So I told them the truth. I was not going to sugarcoat it. I told them the truth. But once their dad came around and found his self, that he was very instrumental in their lives, and we just picked up from there. I didn't hold it against them. We just picked up from there, and that just kept things moving.
Wonderful. And I think it's important you do not have to degrade or put the other parent down or beat the other parent up. But the truth, they need the truth. They need to know as much of the truth as they can handle for their age. And when you can't, find that truth to tell, it's okay to have somebody help you tell that truth. I'm a firm believer in, when you're going through something, put your children in counseling, because they are going through it too. Although they are the children, they are still experiencing what's going on. If you had to give some advice, before we leave our listeners, if you had to give some advice to a young lady or a man, a person that's having to start over, whatever the life change or transition or, trauma, whatever it was that put them in a position where things are no longer like they used to be for them. Things are different. There are different needs. There are more needs. There is possibly that embarrassment. There is possibly that internal dialogue, that they've heard over and over again, especially, like you said, having to live up to be the identity of my daddy's son or my daddy's daughter, but leaving that behind and saying, let me find my own identity. What advice would you offer to our listeners?
Well, for one, I would tell them to be true to themselves, and you don't have to fit, form, do whatever you see happening, or you don't have to have your roadmap the same as someone else's. You just need to be true to yourself. And I think that's our biggest hurdle. And that's the most prestigious advice that I could give to someone, is just to be you. Do you, be you, take care of you, write your goals out, even if you have to keep starting over. So I'm not going to say so what, but so be it. You have to do what you have to do to get yourself to the next level. I start over every day. So every day, whatever I didn't accomplish the day before, I put it on the task for the next day. And if that turns into the next day or the day after that, then so be it. But the task will eventually get done. We have to stop holding our measurement to what we see. Everything that we see on social media, on TV, in the news or whatnot, you're not seeing the whole story. You're seeing what people want you to see. Even in reading my bio tonight, you read what I gave you to read. But if I had to tell my truth behind that, I would say, of course, I was on the president's list. I was on academic probation the semester before. So I had no choice but to make straight A's. But we only tell the part that we feel is important enough. But if we start being transparent and tell the truth, then we can live freely. And living freely, you're not concerned about starting over. It's just like a woman who wakes up and said, I'm going to cut my hair. She's not concerned as to whether it's going to grow back. In that moment, the decision was to cut her hair. So in this moment, the decision is to cut all those things that are negative, that are feeding your emotions, that are telling you can't do something, even if it's people, if it's a place, if it's a thing, whatever it is that is going to hinder you from going forward. I encourage you to detach yourself from that. And then I encourage you to attach yourself to things that are like you, things that are like-minded, places that you desire to be in, rooms you desire to be in. It's a hard fight because you have your left and your right person telling you to do something different, but you have to hear that inner voice inside your head that sounds like you. And whatever that voice is telling you to do, whether it work or if it doesn't work, own it and say, this is my life and I'm going to do. And that was a shameless plug, but I love my Bishop Grant so much. But she constantly tells us, this is my life. And so we have to own what we do in this life. Because as you can see, based on the pandemic, we only get one. Based on everything that's happening in the world, we only get one. And you can spend every day wishing and doing your shoulda, coulda, wouldas, or you can spend every day building and proving everyone wrong who's doubting. That's really all I have to give. Just do you.
Absolutely. Oh my God. How wonderful. Do you. It is your life. You get to own it and cut things away. And we are often afraid to cut things away because we've got, even if it's toxic, we've gotten used to it. But let this be the season that you decide, I'm going to start over and I'm going to cut things away and I'm going to own my life. I'm going to take it by the horns and I'm going to ride it all the way out with everything I have in me. Thank you so much for joining us for this segment of the Ready, Set, Talk Show. We look forward to seeing you next month when we have a new topic that we're going to talk about and we're going to share some exciting things with you. Thank you and have a great evening. Goodbye.
Real issues affecting real people in real life. Ready, set, talk. Real issues affecting real people in real life. Ready, set, talk. Come on and talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. Let's all talk about it. 'Cause we're real people in real life. Ready, set, talk.